Hello everyone, we're going to give this a shot here with recording a practice cube draft. Get ready for our next cube night tomorrow night, see how this goes. Thought it might be helpful to share and talk through some picks with the group here, so give it a shot. Let's play test a draft, see what we open. Alright, so we've got, looks like some good choices in our pack one, pick one. I see we've got an Aetherling, which is an amazing control finisher. You play this guy, and if you have a blue mana or two open, you basically guarantee it can't be killed for the most part, so it's really powerful. We also have Strip Mine if we want to get into a more aggressive plan, just blow out the opposing mana sources and yeah, go to town with your aggressive guys. Other than that, there's not too much interesting. Mox Diamond is pretty good, and I like if you can pick it up early and then maybe get some things to get the land back from the graveyard, or just be really aggressive and get that extra mana going quickly. Or Living Death is a nice build around card if you have a lot of things to put creatures into your graveyard and really capitalize on the effect of wiping out your opponent's creatures while putting a bunch of your own guys into play. Probably just win the game if you line it up correctly. I think, let's see, I usually play control. Why don't we pick the strip mine and make a more aggressive deck here? I think that would be pretty cool. Whenever we open an aggressive card, I like to try to simulate the more aggressive strategy. So in pack two here, there's again some nice cards for control. We've got Parallax Wave, which is really good with ways to bounce it in and out of play, especially if you can do it at instant speed. You can basically plague wind your opponent's creatures and maybe get some value out of your enter the battlefield triggers on your creatures. Factor Fiction is a nice draw spell. For our aggressive deck that we're looking at, I think we want Noble Hierarch. It's a one mana acceleration creature, mana excel, and can attack itself and opens up multiple colors here. Secure Tribuilder is pretty good as well, though not as aggressive as Hierarch. So I think that Hierarch pairs a bit better with our Strip Mine. Otherwise, Mother of Runes is pretty good in an aggressive deck. Gale Powder Mage might be an okay top end. It clears opposing blockers and lets you reuse some enter the battlefield triggers. And I'm not seeing too much else here. Yeah, I mean, we probably really want to be in the control deck and pick up Parallax Wave or Factor Fiction, but I'm going to try to capitalize on a deck here that utilizes Strip Mine. So let's pick Noble Hierarch. And third pick, my, my eyes always go to the good control cards, which Cultivate is nice to build out your mana. Wrath of God is nice. Hornet Queen is a nice top end, Restoration Angel in that Blink deck. So what's going to pair well with our aggressive green deck here? Probably Scavenging Ooze. Let's see if there's any good choices in other colors. Daze could be alright. That's kind of with the Strip Mine and Daze, you're kind of hindering your opponent's mana, and it's a decent aggressive card. But it would mean getting into a second color right away, which I don't know that we really want to do that. Picking up Scavenging Ooze pick 3 here isn't too amazing. We also got Reanimate if we wanted to get into a reanimation theme, but I think that's more of a mid-range plan than true aggro, the decks that are really going to benefit from this strip mine. Trigon Predator is pretty good too. Like strip mine, you can deny some of your opponent's resources with it, and we can play it turn 2 with Noble Hierarch. I think I'm just going to go with the Scavenging Ooze though. I don't want to commit to a second color yet here. And pick 3. Well, there aren't any green cards in here, so in this Pollyanna, we can pretend what colors it represents, but some of these cards just aren't going to function on this draft site. At a minimum, we can make sure it produces green, so that might be all right. Um, Otherwise, we've got a Smother, which might be nice for clearing opposing blockers. Mana War is going to be pretty good if we play blue-green. It's a nice efficient tempo creature. Clear an opposing blocker to keep the tempo in your favor. Weather Wayfarer isn't going to cut it. Vexing Devil's okay. It's just going to basically hit them for 4 unless we draw it late, and then they might not care about having a 4/3 body out. But yeah, I don't know if we want to pair red-green right now. Nether Void's pretty good. It's probably the most powerful effect here. It's also kind of nice with Strip Mines, like we're already disrupting their mana. Basically, if we play out some early things and then drop another Void, the opponent's probably done at that point. I think it's the most rewarding card here. Conscripts is okay. It's like if we included it and if we were full on aggressive, it'd probably be our top end card. Otherwise, both of the blue cards are pretty good to pair here. I feel like the biggest payoff here is Nether Void, or we could just take Poliano. I mean, maybe in a I'm not really quite sure on how to rate this card or how it's used. I mean, if we pick it up early like this, I think the idea is that your opponents kind of tell you which colors they're not in at this point because they don't really want you to have this land that produces their colors and then you're all of a sudden like splashing cards that they want to have. But you're also maybe giving something up. Like if we picked green, people would know that we're in some sort of green deck, so we're communicating that, and then people might start sniping our picks at some point in the draft. So I don't know. Let's just take this Nether Void here. I think it's pretty sweet. And third pick. So potentially we want to pair black green, but maybe not. We don't have to play another Void, or we could even splash it. There's a lot of color fixing in the cube. Otherwise, I'm looking at this Temple Garden. We've already got Noble Hierarch that can produce white. Temple Garden, green-white decks, aggressive are pretty good. We can get Armageddon or some things that disrupt mana along with the Strip Mine. Otherwise, we've got an aggressive Fanatic of Xenagos for green-red. I'm not going to be playing this blue-black card. I don't really want to get into the double black of Necrotal because we need green sources to be available turn 1, turn 2 for our quick green plays here. So even though I like Necrotal, it would be kind of hard to accommodate enough green mana sources and enough black mana sources to make both of these directions work. Though, picking something like this up early means we could prioritize like City of Brass, Mana Confluence, if that's on the cube, and Gemstone Mine. But I'm just going to pick up this Temple Garden. Could pick up Juggernaut too, but I don't think that's too exciting. I think in the really aggressive decks, we don't even really want to get to 4 mana. Like if we're blowing out our Strip Mine to disrupt them, getting back up to 4 mana after is going to be pretty hindering on us as well. So we'll take the Temple Garden here. So now we've got a possibility of white. And then this pack, so again, no green cards, kind of unfortunate. I don't know if the bots actually like draft and stick to a color or if they would get on like a green aggressive archetype and cut us out here. But our choices, let's see, we got a couple lands, don't fit our green theme. Future Sight, a nice control card. Chandra is kind of meh. Redcap's pretty good. I think I'm just going to take this Figure of Destiny. Again, if we're going to want to play both green and then a possible splash color, or sorry, a possible solid second color, white or red, we'll need to prioritize some of the mana that can accommodate both, but we do already have a Temple Garden, so if we can get up to around 10 sources of each, which is a little bit of a stretch, but again, with cards like City of Brass and Fetch Lands, we can probably do it. So yeah, let's just take this Figure of Destiny. Now we're looking at like a possibly white-green deck. Again, no green cards, so maybe we should switch off of green at this point. I kind of think that the bots don't really just cut you out of colors completely. I don't know. I think the card just might not be there, but I don't know. Maybe it's time to start thinking about a switch. We could, so it would kind of stink to pivot out of green because 3 of our early picks go away, but another Void's still a sweet card in an aggressive deck, and of course, Strip Mine. So we could do like Figure of Destiny in a base red deck, and then splash some black for things like Nether Void. So again, there are a lot of nice red aggressive cards here, and then alternatively too, we could play red-green, just get rid of this Temple Garden. So don't think we want to Magma Jet. I think we want to prioritize our 1-drop creatures. And I'm not sure if it's Fire Drinker Satyr or Reckless Waif. I kind of like the Waif a little bit better. I don't know. I'm not a super aggressive player in general. It's kind of why I'm forcing myself this way. Normally I'd be picking something sweet here like Cloud Skate. I like that card quite a bit, and Impulse. But we're trying something different, so not really sure which one's better. Let's go with the Waif, I think. I think that's pretty good. It's a 1/1 guy, and at the beginning of a turn, if no spells were played in the previous turn, it flips into a 3/2. All right, well, the red-green aggressive cards are definitely here. We've got Curdape, Rancor, and Stomping Ground. Life from the Loam might also be nice with Strip Mine, but I think that's going to be more like a mid-range strategy, not the full-on aggressive strategy, which we've already picked up a couple 1-drops that are more on the aggressive side. So I think we're just going to grab this Stomping Ground because we're looking to play red-green now, because red is more open than white and even the green low creatures had been. So I think we're going to pick up the Stomping Ground. Curdape is nice too, but you definitely have to prioritize the lands that fix your mana, especially when you have 1-drops in both of your colors. So we'll go with Stomping Ground there. And now it looks like we've got a couple nice picks that we could follow it up with. We've got Vine Lasher Kudzu. Whenever you play a land, get a +1/+1 counter on it, and Hellspark Elemental. It's a 2-drop with trample and haste for a 3/1 that gets sacked, but then you can unearth it and get them again. I think, if we get a bunch of these 1-drop creatures, we're not going to have a lot of lands in our decks, so Hellspark Elemental is going to be better. It represents 6 damage that tramples over. People don't really want to block and trade with it just because it's going to die anyway. The Kudzu we might not power up as much, because we're not going to have things like Cultivate in our deck if we're super aggressive. So I feel like this is a better like mid-range aggro card where we just want to be full on aggro, I think. At least that's kind of what I'm trying to push here. So, and there's a lot of other aggressive cards in the pack here. I guess we could, splash black already for another void, but I don't want to have a lot of 4-drops, even though this is a nice aggressive black-red one. But yeah, let's just pick up this Hellspark Elemental. And we're going to follow it up with an Uktabi Orangutan. Orangutan? I don't know why I can't say that. Anyway, yeah, there's still some nice white cards in here if we happen to want to switch back at this point, but I don't think we do. Triskellion's going to be pretty good against us, and Thieving Magpie, is not really much to be said about that. Let's just get the Orangutan. I feel like there should be a G on the end of that, Orangutan. All right. Next we have Volcanic Fallout, which is going to probably wreck our deck pretty severely, as is Lightning Helix is going to be pretty good against us. I don't see anything we want to play here. I think I'm just going to take this Fallout. I feel like that's going to be harder to cast, though, for people. They'll have to be in a pretty base red, which is pretty much only an aggro deck. But yeah, I really don't want to come up against this, so let's just get it out of there. Then, okay, so we'll take Poliano here. Yeah, see what our opponents name, I guess. I mean, I don't know if they happen to name red, that's great. I guess we could pick it, and then if someone next to us, we get a couple chances here to get the colors that we need. So then we're not going to play any of these other cards at this point. Okay, taking the Lone Missionary might be okay because we don't want to face that either. But let's take this, and if we do happen to get red-green on it, that would be really sweet. So we'll say, first person it names whatever color, second, and then we can name one. So hopefully they just named red or green, and we get the other one, and then we've got another shot at it on the third person there. So I don't know. Don't know if that's going to work out or not, but here we're getting a Grim Lavamancer, pretty sweet one casting cost card for us, especially with Strip Mine to go in our graveyard early. So nice card. We'll take the Generator Servant. We might play that. Especially the red-green decks, like we might want to have, even if we're really, really aggressive, we might still, like we have Noble Hierarch to make mana and Generator Servant, so we could just have a plan of getting into our 4-drops, like Plukernos here. So that's an option, but it's going to be heavy green. We don't really have a ton of green yet, to be honest. We could just kind of switch into base red at this point. Anyhow, our choices here, we've got an Ancient Tomb, which is a nice card, but when you're in this like super aggressive strategy where you are packing a lot of 1-drops, you can't cast them off of this. So you really want to be kind of in that mid-range strategy, I think, where you're actually able to better utilize that colorless mana with things like Plukernos. So what are we going to take? I'm kind of looking at the Stagger Shock. It's a nice card. Does basically represents 4 damage for 3 mana, and you can split it into 2 creatures if you need to. So I think that's going to be the best one. I don't really want these Signets in an aggressive deck. Hell's Thunder's okay. Probably get this on the wheel typically. Same with Volcanic Hammer. I'd be fine with wheeling either of those. Kitchen Finks is an okay aggressive guy. He's more of like a good mid-range or even a control play, I think, because it does a lot of blocking and nets you some life each time. Yeah, so let's just grab this Stagger Shock. Again, we could potentially switch into mono red. And okay, so choices here. I guess I'll just call there's like a Pyroclasm in here. There was a Toxic Deluge in the previous pack that could wipe out our creatures, so we don't really want to face those. For our deck, there's a Raging Ravine. I think this too is better in a mid-range deck. I mean, it comes in tapped, which isn't great for our red and green turn 1 plays. And it also costs quite a bit to activate it, but it is nice to have some lands that turn into creatures. I mean, it's basically like getting an extra spell in your deck, but most of our stuff here is going to be played on turn 1 and 2. So other choices, you might think to take the Banefire, but again, we're not ramping a lot of mana, and we're not even like, ideally we want to only have like 16 or 15 lands in our deck, so I think it's going to be pretty unimpressive. So I think it might be a little bit unintuitive for newer players here, but the pick is actually Porcelain Legionnaire, just because it's a two colorless creature. You can spend two colorless and two life, can go into any color deck, and it's a 3/1 first strike. So it's a pretty amazing early play in an aggressive deck. So we're just going to take the Porcelain Legionnaire. And choices here, so there is a blue-white fetch land, which obviously that's not going to work for us, but we should keep an eye out for red-green fetches if we are going to play green, which, maybe we're not. Maybe we just are going to play black-red. We've already got the Nether Void, which is a nice card. So, and it seems like there's enough cards going around that we can get in a decent red base and then splash some cards like Nether Void, maybe some 2 or 3 drop black creatures. It's a shame that we passed, I think, some good ones in the first pack. I think we saw some shadow guys in there, maybe even the 3 power shadow guy. But anyway, I think what we're looking at is the Badlands or the Keldon Marauders. I think we're going to take the Keldon Marauder. It would be nice to get this Badlands, but it is one of the duels that's more likely to go around the table and come back. Granted, in our drafts, we usually have like 10 people, so you're probably not going to see it again. But we don't even need to be playing black at this point, and Marauders is just another nice 2 casting cost aggressive play. So it basically you play it, it sticks around for one subsequent turn, and then it goes away due to its vanishing. But when it comes in and when it leaves, it does a damage, and then it also has 3 power for 2 mana. So potentially this guy's hitting them for 5 if you can play it into an open board. So we'll take that guy. And doesn't appear to be, as I said, there doesn't appear to be a whole lot of aggression here, except we have the perfect card in Goblin Rabblemaster, so don't want to pass that up. But otherwise, there's a Mishra's Factory that we could take. There's an Evolving Wilds, but again, we don't really want our lands to come into play tapped. So if we were definitely in 2 or more colors here, we'd want more like a City of Brass or an actual dual land or a Gemstone Mine, which is like temporary any color mana that will eventually go away, but doesn't come in tapped. So yeah, Goblin Rabblemaster is just a really aggressive guy. He's gonna stream out a sequence of tokens that can be attacking, and he gets buffed for how many tokens you create. So we'll take that. Got a few other nice red plays it looks like. I'm gonna take the Ash Zealot just because if I can, I don't want to have to get up to 3 or 4 mana. I mean, 3 mana is fine, but I guess I want something a little more aggressive than a Fire Imp if it comes down to it. And then Avalanche Rider would be okay too. It fits with our Strip Mine and possibly Nether Void plan here, but I think we just want to jam as many aggressive 1 and 2 casting cost guys as we can get that fit in our mono red. So Ash Zealot. It's kind of interesting that we did start. We looked at green initially and then got into white a little bit with our Temple Garden and kind of our Figure of Destiny. We were still thinking we were on white, but at this point we've switched completely. Now we've got a Blood Crypt, which again might be nice for splashing that Nether Void. I kind of feel like we might not even need a duel to splash it because it is a 4-drop, so we don't need the mana immediately. And being that we're so heavy red, I mean, let's say that there's ends up being 16 lands in our deck, one of them's a strip mine, we could still put in like 12 mountains and then 3 swamps and call it a day with our Nether Void Splash. It's not the best because we still might not draw it. We don't have any way to really draw or filter cards, but yeah, and we might not even play this Nether Void. We don't really have to. So I think we're going to pick up the Boros Reckoner here. If we had an inclination to splash white, and Ajani Vengeance really good for tying down a mana. It's a nice card that pairs with the Strip Mine, Armageddon Plan. But we're going to go with Boros Reckoner here. Just that's another card for 3 red. You get a 3/3 guy that when it gets damaged, you can redirect damage to the opposing player or their creatures. And then you can also give it first strike. So he's just a nice ground pounder. I mentioned in the previous pack that you want your 3-drop creatures to be more aggressive, and this guy perfectly fits the bill here. There's also Canal Dredger, which could be okay. It's not going to do anything in this draft because it doesn't. These cards aren't coded to work on the CubeTutor site. But picking this up, I guess this isn't so early since it's the second pack, but um, I feel like a lot of the aggressive red cards people just might not want. Maybe that's wrong because we have had quite a few aggressive players in our drafts. But anyway, if you can pick this up early, you might find some things that make your deck. You might end up with a lot more stuff. So Could be better than Boros Reckoner, but I'm not going to take it here since it doesn't function. And I really don't like this Agent of Acquisitions. I don't think there's enough cards in a pack that you're going to want to swap this or use this ability to take an entire pack. I guess maybe towards the end of a pack you find like 3 good things in there out of 4 or 5 remaining cards and you just want to take that whole pack. But anyway, enough said about this. Let's take this Reckoner. And what do we have here? So we've got an Earthquake, might not be a bad finisher. It's kind of similar to the Banefire that we talked about. It's, we're not going to really play it except to try to finish the game, I think, because it's going to kill all of our small guys. So I'm not too impressed with it. I don't really like Squee in the cube. I guess it pairs with like a Masticore if you have that, but I don't think it's very good. Kiki Jiki, again, we don't really want to get up to 5 mana. And I think Incinerate's going to be the pick here. We want to get some of these 3 damage lightning bolt type spells, so we'll grab that. And we've got a few choices, I think. We've got a Plateau if we wanted to make a white splash, but again, the white things in our deck we don't actually need white for. And we passed up the Ajani Vengeance. Potentially it might come back, but I don't think it's worth picking it over one of these other cards. Probably not Rabble Master because I want my mana to be smaller, and if I'm just playing 3 mana for a 2/1 haste, I'm not very excited. 4 mana to blow up one of their lands is good. It pairs well with Strip Mine, but I think the picks are Burst Lightning or Brimstone Volley. Again, I'm probably not going to get to the 5 mana to do the 4 damage. I feel like people don't like this card very much, Brimstone Volley, but I think it pretty well represents 5 damage for 3 mana. I think that's going to come up throughout the course of the game. I mean, towards the end, they're blocking your guys. Your guys are probably stalled on the ground, but they're going to block them and they're going to die. So I think it's going to be pretty easy to activate it. So I'm going to take the Brimstone Volley. I think it'll be a nice top end for this deck at 3 mana. All right, Volcanic Hammer came back, as did Hell's Thunder. Again, I don't think we're going to get to 5 mana, so we won't be able to get this guy in twice very reliably. I'm probably underrating it though, and maybe you just include it, and then when the game stalls out and you do get up to 5 mana, then you use this to come over the top. But since Volcanic Hammer is here, I'm just going to go ahead and grab that. We've got a couple choices, I guess, in Banefire and Gutter Snipe. Gutter Snipe will do some additional damage with our Volcanic Hammer and Brimstone Volley, but I don't think that's that great. Banefire, we already talked about this one. I guess I would probably include it if it came down to it, but I'm not too excited about it. Sinkhole is nice if you are the heavy black plan, but we're obviously not. Yogg's Will is pretty nice, but not in an aggressive deck. You're just not going to have the mana to capitalize it, despite it being one of those banned and broken cards. So let's just go with Banefire. Not much here. Guess we could take a Soltari Trooper. If we ended up splashing white, we would run it. It's got like pure evasion. There aren't many shadow guys being played, so it's basically a 2-power attacker. And don't think we're going to run any of these others. I mean, obviously Hellkite fits our red, but it is 6 mana, so don't want that. So we'll just take this thing. And I think we'll just take a Lightning Greaves. We might play that. And we'll take the Avalanche Rider. I guess at this point we take the Canal Dredger, and then, hey, we get that Imperious Perfect back now. We'll take the Squee. All right, well, we've got the premier creature, Goblin Guide. Gosh, I feel like it actually might be a close pick, though, between Goblin Guide and Backup Plan. Getting 2 openers of 7, I mean, that means we can do something crazy, like play down to even 14 lands, maybe. Possibly this might wheel too if nobody else is in red. Now I'm getting greedy, especially since in our drafts, like I say, we usually have 10 people. But yeah, I like Backup Plan a lot. I think I'm just going to take it. There's also a Wasteland, Riftbolt, Borderland Marauder. We're going to get a quality card here. Maybe it's wrong passing Goblin Guide, which is just the best red beatdown guy, but you're not always going to draw it, and every game you're going to have Backup Plan available to be looking at 14 cards to pick the better hand that's going to wreck somebody. I'm just going to take Backup Plan. That card's sick. I feel like Grim Monolith and Mana Vault from the previous pack are probably the best cards in here, that maybe they shouldn't even be in here because to me, they represent like true like power cube, and the power has been cut from this cube, but I don't know. I guess they haven't really appeared to be that broken in the games, but I certainly have had drafts now in the last couple times we've played where I've had both of them, and they are pretty good. So at some point, I think someone's gonna really break these, and then we might have to ask Ben about updating the cube to remove them. But for now, they're there. So nothing really for our deck, it looks like. I think this is one where we just get to hate out this batter skull, because that thing's, we don't want to come up against that. Someone plays their monolith into batter skull, and then it's pretty much game over for us. So am I overlooking anything? I guess we could be playing a Molten Tail Masticore at the top end, but I don't know, we're dumping out our hand, and we don't really have cards to discard to it. We don't really want to get to 4 mana, so yeah, let's just take out the batter skull. Ooh, Anka Mishra, I like that quite a bit. It's like any mid-range or control deck wants to be playing a lot of lands throughout the course of the game, so and we honestly don't care, and we'll play out our lands and take damage. It's not like we're going to get to like 6 or 7 lands like the other decks are trying to do. This just represents, I think, a lot of damage to these decks, to any deck that you're playing against. I guess maybe you could side it out in a aggro on aggro matchup, but even there, if we're the red aggro deck, we've got the burn spells to come over the top at them. We'd probably just leave it in there as well. So, and there isn't really much else for us. There's another X burn spell. We already talked about all those aren't too great. So yeah, we'll take a Anka Mishra. Be very happy about that. Now we've got Stormkirk Mobile as mobile. Stormkirk Noble as another 1 red drop. I think we're just gonna jam that guy. Chandra's Phoenix would be okay, but not too exciting. And same with Marauder. I feel like Marauder shines in a more of a mid-range deck where you're pairing it with the 4 or 5 drop guy and then smashing as they both come in. Um, yeah, we don't even really have too many 3 drops in here. And then our 4 drop Avalanche Rider, if we include it, already has haste. So anyway, let's take the Noble and be very happy about that. And we want to get as many 1 casting cost red drops as we need. So if we were in another color right now, besides mono red, City of Brass might be a worthwhile pick, or it might at least be tied with consideration for Chain Lightning, but I don't think there's any other color we need to play. We still might splash this Nether Void if we need an extra card in the deck, but we'll take Chain Lightning and be happy to grab that Lightning Bolt. It doesn't look like there's anything in here, and out of all of these I recognize Timely Reinforcements as a card is that we absolutely don't want to come up against. Everything else, I mean, there's some good cards in here, but they're just a bit slower. Splinter Twin combo could get us in a match, but we have some removal, I think, to kill their creature that they try to twin. So Timely Reinforcements, they're going to be a little bit behind on creatures and damage likely. So this gives them 6 life and 3 creatures, puts them out of burn range. We just absolutely don't want to see that. It's one of my pet cards, I guess, that I like to include in my white-based or white-included control decks. So let's grab that. Unfortunately, there's not an lot here either. Gosh, I wonder how many picks we actually have at this point that make our deck. We'll count the non-lands. 1, 2. No, we're not counting a Volcanic Fallout. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That 8's a maybe, so let's say 7 that we really want. Maybe Lightning Greaves, probably not. So 9, 10, 11, maybe on Avalanche Riders 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And we want to get to because I feel like we can maybe get down to 15, 15 for sure. Let's say 15 lands. So we need like 7 more cards. Yuck. I know some of these I didn't count, but we're probably going to have to play the Avalanche Rider, so then we'll definitely want at least 15, maybe even 16 lands. What else did I omit there? Maybe we'll play the Nether Void. And I don't really want to play the Lightning Greaves. It's like most of our guys are just 1 drops or 2 drops. We don't want to be playing Lightning Greaves instead. Anyway, that was just an exercise here because I saw this pack and saw there was nothing for our deck. So I don't think we want to even pick up the Rootbound Crag for a splash. Picking up Rakdos Signet for our Nether Void seems pretty meh. Again, we don't really want to play things like Signets to ramp our mana. We just want to be full on aggressive. So it's kind of unfortunate that we got into red late. We didn't really solidify on red, I don't think, till at least late pack 1. I think by pack 2 we knew we were getting to be mono red. Anyway, is there anything we want to play here? Not really. Anything we might play? No? Let's pick up the Rootbound Crag, I guess. Whatever. Alright, so like a Burning Tree Shaman might be something that we'd want to splash then, but I think we just pick up this Bone Splitter. It's nice for our one-drop creatures. If you're an aggressive deck with a good amount of creatures, then it's a fine inclusion. I think it's going to be better than this possible splash. So we'll grab that. Oh, what? What? Yeah, this probably wouldn't likely happen, but we got the Goblin Guide back. Sweet. Uh, Reflecting Pool is kind of an interesting card. We're obviously not looking at it for our deck, but if you have a deck that's a control deck with a lot of 2 or 3 mana requirements and multiple colors, then you might look at grabbing it, I guess. I don't really like it, so anyway, maybe we'll play this Molten Tail Mastercore if we need to have another included card, which we were kind of on the cusp of having enough playables with some of the things that we probably didn't even want to include, so I guess we'll grab it. We also don't really want to play against it. We don't want someone to be able to just side in this colorless card that they can drop out early off of their mana vault and things. Alright, I guess we'll just pick up another burn spell here. Again, we don't really want to play it, but we might be looking at like a 16 land deck, and then we might have to play our Banefire and Red Sun Zenith. Not really, we're not considering any of these other cards, so grab that. Alright, then yeah, I'll be happy to play a Lightning Mauler at this point. And probably grab City of Brass. Well, obviously we're not playing either of these, so we'll grab the City, and then maybe if we splash the Another Void, that'll help. And Dreadbore, that could be a splash as well. If we find that there's some creature that we really need to kill. I guess if our opponent is like powering out a Baneslayer Angel on us or something, we'll really need to destroy that quickly before it gains them a bunch of life. Unfortunately, the other nice one is Wormcoil Engine, and even if you destroy it, they still have a Wormcoil token to uh, gain some additional life off of. But okay, I feel like this deck came together pretty well. Let's go with our non-land stuff first and see how many cards we have. So we'll grab all the stuff that we'll play for sure here. Yeah, we're probably playing this guy, the Generator Servant, just as a 2-drop. We might even use it to power out another play. I kind of doubt it since our curve kind of stops at 3, but we'll see. If we do have to play the burn spells, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world to have a Generator Servant in your deck. I mean, obviously you want to be attacking with it, but um, if the ground stalls out and then you just need to get those extra couple points in off of the X spell, it's nice that it can contribute some mana towards that, I guess. Nice might be a little bit too nice of a word for it, but whatever. Alright. Alright, 15 cards. This is actually a 2-drop. I don't think we can move it over there. Alright, so we're up to 20 cards. I think we're going to play this Avalanche Rider at the top end. So now we're at 21 cards. Still don't think we want a Lightning Greaves, because this is a 2-drop. Our 4-drop has haste. We only have 2 3-drops. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess you play a 1-drop. Turn 2, you'd kind of like to just play, 2 more 1-drops if you have them, or a 2-drop. Some of our 2s already have haste. Some of our 2s, like Keldon Marauders, just want to come in early before the opponent has a blocker. So I don't think we want to play Lightning Greaves at all. We could play Dreadbore. Let's see, if we play Dreadbore and another Void, that'd be 23 cards. We'd still add 1 more card to get to 16 land, and then we've got Rootbound Crag, and maybe this Pollyanna. Nah, this doesn't. I don't think this is going to make black-red. I guess there's a chance. We were going to pick green when we picked it up, I think, green or white, and it's possible that it matched our colors, but I think we picked it up early and then switched colors, so I don't think it makes the colors that we want. So, I don't know. I guess, obviously if it made black-red, we would include it here for another Void Splash. And, yeah, I don't think that newer players especially would consider splashing Nether Void, but like I say, if you put down some early plays and then play Nether Void, you just kind of put a seal on the game. I don't know. On the other hand, once we seal the game, if the opponent does come over the top on mana and can play like some sort of a creature with a relevant toughness, they probably just shut down the game at that point. But I think it's good enough between like Strip Mine and Avalanche Riders if we play those first and then kind of have this cap on there, then they won't really be doing much. Some of our creatures though don't stick around either, so how many of those actually do that? Just one? Hellspark Elemental, two of them, Keldon Marauders. So if these are one of our early plays, then we play Nether Void, then we're kind of stuck as well. But I feel like it's better than our X spells, and it's better than our 4-drop Molten Tail Masticore. I could be wrong on this. We're going to have to play one of these 3 cards at least, so I think... Does it matter which one of these? Don't think we're going to get it to 5 or more very reliably. I don't know that we even want to like shuffle this thing in and draw it again. I guess maybe we do. I mean, if we don't quite have enough to kill them, but we throw it at them, we might need to draw it again to kill them. So I guess we play that. Then I think the question is, do we play this second Banefire or the Nether Void? Not really sure what the call is there. It's not the second Banefire, but the second X spell. I think I'd rather splash the Nether Void. I feel like that's just a sweet card. So let's go with that and leave Banefire in the side. And let's see how many red sources we're at first. Let's try to get up to like 12 or 13 red sources. So we play the Strip Mine, we play the City of Brass. Again, we would play the Polyano if it made black-red, but I don't think it does, so we will add 12 red sources. That puts us at 38 cards. And then just 2 black sources, is that right? We already have City of Brass for 1. Yeah. Oh, we do have Dreadbore in here as well. That's right. So, yeah. So I think it makes sense then to keep Nether Void in since we are already splashing black. I think, well, because if we put Banefire in, we need to take out both of those and like go up to 17 land. Or, I don't know, some other combination, I guess. Put in Banefire and put in Molten Tail Masticore and stay at 16 land. But so 13 red sources, is that too many? I'm not really sure the exact like percentages on this. It's not, I mean, I don't think there's such a thing as too many here. Like obviously we want triple red for Boros Reckoner. But the question is 2 black or 2 swamps and a City of Brass enough? I feel like it's right on the cusp. Like, do we want that extra swamp or not? Yeah, I think 3 black sources is fine. Especially seeing the double hands, we're probably going to keep a hand with like a swamp and a couple mountains or something. I don't know. Who knows what we're going to keep? We're going to keep a hand that has some aggressive guys and a good curve. But yeah, I think this is okay. This is how our deck ended up. Don't know what more to say about it. It's kind of interesting how, pick Strip Mine first just to try to get into an aggressive deck and then switch into, look at green off of the Noble Hierarch and the Scavenging Ooze, which wasn't that exciting, but be looking at a green-white deck after we get that Temple Garden since the mana base is there, and then kind of pivoting into red just because we picked up the Figure of Destiny in our white plan, but then things kind of seemed to dry up. I was a little concerned on the green side of things with the green aggression. We weren't really seeing the cards for that. But I think things turned out pretty well. I'm very happy to see Ankh Mishra. I'm very happy to have the backup plan. We'll move that down to our deck here. And obviously very happy to see the Goblin Guide come around the table when we took backup plan over it. I still think that's the right call, though. I mean, that's just such a huge advantage to have that every single game, starting with 14 cards and keeping the best 7. I mean, I think it means, especially with, what are we at, 16 lands here? Could probably cut down to 15 land even, but we were kind of talking about how I was on the cusp of decisions on that those swamps, so I didn't want to cut down any further. I don't think I want to take a mountain out, and I don't think I want to take a swamp out. So I think we just play 16. I think the 2 hands also smooth mana flood. So I think this backup plan I think is going to do a lot of work. Beyond that, I would have liked to see some more 1-drop creatures, but I think that's okay. I think that's another reason we're playing 16 is because most of our creatures are 2 and 3 drop. We also need to get to our 4 drops. or would like to. So this is another 2-drop over here. Legionnaire is a nice card on an aggro deck as well. And we do have what we've got. Well, Monka Mishra, I think, is another highlight of this deck. It might be one of the top 5 aggro cards in the cube. I haven't played with it before though, so I might be wrong on that, but I'm just thinking from the control player's perspective, that's a card I definitely don't want to come up against. And anything else noteworthy in here? I think Generator Servant isn't that great, but if we did have the Strip Mine and we play the Generator Servant, or we're going to be playing another Void, I mean, this could accelerate us or get us to that 4 mana. So maybe we kind of stop at 3 mana because we only have 16 lands in our deck, or because we use Strip Mine early and we don't quite get to 4 mana, we could use that Generator Servant to power up to another Void or Avalanche Rider to hinder our opponent, or we could get the Red Sun Zenith with it, or possibly do something like get a hasty Keldon Marauder, and maybe we get to like 5 mana with it and play the Keldon Marauder and Goblin Rabblemaster, and then just go to town on them because you're all of a sudden attacking for like 7 additional damage out of nowhere or whatever that is. So I think I'm fairly happy with the deck. I feel like it could be better, but I think it's pretty well positioned and looks pretty good. So yeah, we'll call it a success. Let's save our deck here. Call this one, it's really like mono red splash black, so red black aggro. And the features, highlights, MVPs, let's put those in there too. So we said Strip Mine, let's list them maybe in order. Backup Plan, Strip Mine, Goblin Guide, and Ankh. I think those are the top 4 cards. What's the top 5 here? Top 5 is probably our 1-cast Chain Lightning, or just the 5 or so 1-drop creatures that we have. But yeah, we'll add Chain Lightning to the MVP list. The mech cards are, we'll add Generator Servant to that list. I think we'd like to have both of those upgraded. And I'm not 100% on this Black Splash either, but yeah. All right, let's save it and let's call it a video. Thanks, guys.